Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza. It's a Paul World. We are at Freedom Fest 2021. We have a very special guest today. We have Stephanie Lips from Donor Trust. And Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm very excited to be here for It's a Paul World.
Well, excellent. Now, we have some keep out zones, but we're gonna hear some interesting things. One of the things is that, and we're now doing a GoFundMe on this because Stephanie cannot have her own Facebook account because she has, a name. So tell us about why you can't have a Facebook account. Tell me about that.
Well, my name is Stephanie Lips. You spell it like the lips on your face. My husband can be listed as Brad Lips. My son can be listed as Peter Lips. Any woman with the name Lips cannot be listed as Stephanie Lips or anybody else with the Lips name. It's considered a naughty name by Facebook. So I am listed as Stephanie Zakowski. You find me under my maiden name. And my mother-in-law, who's been married since 1969, is also listed by Diane Schmidt instead of Diane Lips. It is a rather interesting conundrum we're in.
The reason why I love doing interviews is that you never know where they're going to lead. I never knew this about Facebook. I wonder if somebody has a list of naughty names, and that way we could all know what the naughty names are. But I've met Stephanie. I've talked to her. 4 children, cancer survivor, traveled the world, and I don't know how much naughty we're talking. But anyway, talk a little bit about how how you got into this whole donor trust thing and what you do and all that.
Sure. So I used to work for an organization called the Atlas Network. I ran their fundraising and their events department. I traveled the world. I was in Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Johannesburg, Santiago, Chile, all over the world constantly, fundraising and there for our events to see our donors and also to see the groups that Atlas Network works with because they're the Johnny Appleseed of the free market think tank movement. After I had cancer, the travel was just a little unbearable. So I was hired by an Atlas Network board member who's our CEO, and his name is Lawson Bader, and he hired me, and I work with our clients who open accounts. We are the Donor Advised Fund for Liberty. So we are very strongly for donor intent. And people can open an account with us with $1,000. Once they hit $10,000, they can start directing donations. They can to free market groups. They can also give to, if they'd like, they can also give to their local church, synagogue, animal shelter, as long as it's a 501c3 that takes less than 25% of their funding from the government. And we're here because it's a fabulous time to have meetings with all of our grantees, not all of our grantees, but a good portion of them. I've had meetings with Young Voices, Students for Liberty, the Reason Foundation. It's been an absolutely fabulous time to get to know and see what different groups are doing and to be able to tell our clients about them.
Now, why would somebody need to go to somebody like Donor Trust? I mean, couldn't I just go start picking charities that I want to give to? So what do you help people do and add value in that way?
Well, we have some people that actually make larger donations, but a lot of our clients make smaller donations. If you send out $50, $100 donations, do you want to hunt down those receipts? That's a lot of work. You get one receipt when you work with Donors Trust. Also, if you choose to be anonymous, you can choose to be anonymous. If you don't want to be on someone's mailing list and get thousands of emails and letters asking you for money, your name can just be Donors Trust. You're directing a donation through Donors Trust. So you can do that. That's one of the great reasons that people work with us, is that they can be anonymous so that they are not being hounded by every group that's asking them for money. And we also have our Young Givers program, which is our Nova Society, and that's to get people under the age of 40 involved in giving. A lot of people actually open accounts for their kids and grandkids, and once you reach $5,000, you can start directing donations.
So one of the advantages is that means I'm not going to get all those fake surveys in the mail that tell me fill this out, and by the way, can you help us out, and all of that. And I don't even know what they're going to do with the money, but it always sounds like it's really enticing. So that's one of the ways that you help clients.
Yes, and also we actually research our grantees. We meet with them. We know what they're doing. If you want to ask me about a certain grantee, if I have not met with them recently, or someone in my office hasn't met with them recently, we do our research. We're very good at making sure we know our grantees.
So part of it is the fact that people are concerned that they donate this money and they give it to somebody that they believe is going to follow, as you said, I think the word you used was intent.
Yeah, donor intent.
Donor intent. But in fact, what they're going to do is maybe they've morphed and now they have a different direction that they're going, or they have a different bend they're going. So in this way, you assure to whatever degree possible that you've done the due diligence for people, so they're just not taken in by their pretty pictures and say, oh, they're going to do what I want to do. Is that right?
We meet with our grantees to really make sure that they are following their mission and there's not mission creep. Something else I handle specifically for Donors Trust is legacy. So that's if someone is going to pass away and they want to leave their life insurance policy, their home, money, stock, art to an organization, they can work with me on to set up a contract, their will, to leave their what is important to them, their legacy, to the groups they care about in their lifetime. And then we follow through to make sure that the groups that they're leaving their legacy to are actually doing what they've promised, and haven't mission creeped.
And how common is this mission creep problem? I mean, is it pretty pervasive? Has it happened over time? I'm talking about just in general. So is that part of the motivation, is that people got a little bit surprised that you gave money for what you thought was one thing and we went somewhere else?
Well, I've seen it a few times with different colleges where people have left a donation on their own, not through Donors Trust. I've seen it with some colleges where the money's supposed to go to a named share or a certain department, and then instead the football field is enhanced. And Donors Trust is here to, when you are no longer here, to make sure that your wishes are followed.
So it sounds fascinating. So you meet a lot of different people on all different sides, and part of it is, so what is the payoff for yourself? I mean, so what kind of exciting, fun things? Maybe it isn't that much fun, but what do you get out of this whole thing? Because you seem like an upbeat person.
I am an upbeat person. I have to be if I have 4 kids. What do I get out of it? I really, after having cancer myself, I really, really cared about donor intent and legacy. I had to start thinking about my legacy because I actually had a doctor tell me I was up against the firing squad, and to start making plans. So when I started making plans for my legacy, actually I get chills talking about it. When I started talking about my legacy, I realized that I had five parts of it, my children. And Andrew, Emma, Morgan, and Petey. And the 5th was charity, the groups I really, truly care about. And so I started focusing on legacy and really kind of made it my mission for people to realize that, there are groups out there where their missions aren't followed. Look at the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation. I'm sure Mr. Ford and Mr. Rockefeller, are maybe rolling in their graves right now.
Well, so describe that. So what has happened? How did they, if you will, traverse to a different place? Take one of those two or whatever example, and just kind of give us a rundown of what can happen.
Well, actually, I can give you a personal example. I used to work for a nonprofit, and while I was working there, someone said they were working on their will, and they were going to leave a large part of their estate to 3 different free market groups. Unfortunately, this man passed away before his will was finalized. It was in writing, in emails with his children and with the 3 groups, but when time came around, the 3 children decided not to give to the 3 groups and gave to groups they cared about. So they did not follow the donor, their father, his intent, donor intent. That is what can happen.
And the sadness of that is that he worked a lifetime to build that pot of money, and then that becomes a legacy. But no, it gets diffused, it goes somewhere else, and of course that is the tragedy of certain circumstances.
It is definitely a tragedy. That example is a true tragedy. It really is, because he really cared about those organizations, and they were each going to be left a very large sum of money to be able to continue the work that he cared so deeply about, and instead it's going to different organizations that his children cared about, that he did not.
And that's a struggle, because if you are giving to somebody, you have values that you're trying to project. You're saying, this is what I believe, I'm projecting those values out, I want to see those values promulgated and perpetuated for the future. And in fact, when it goes awry, what happens is that you really have stilted that, and you have essentially stopped off on that legacy. Changing things a little bit. So when should people start thinking about it? Because lots of times I'll talk to people about, first off, nobody wants to die, so they don't think about that. But when should people really start thinking about it, and how much money or how little money can they have to really start putting this in place?
Well, actually, most people think that it's the super wealthy that are always the people that are setting up legacy plans. It's all of us. I own a house. I have a life insurance policy. I have jewelry. So I started thinking about it probably a little too late, because I was told I was up against the firing squad and needed to make plans. And so I was rushed. I was stressed. I was emotional. And it was not a good time for me to be making plans. So when you're young, you can make plans. You don't have to be 75 years old. You can be 25 years old. And you can change your plans throughout your life. You may not be involved in a church when you're 25 years old, but maybe when you're 45, you are, and you really care about them, and you want them to be part of your legacy. So it's very important to really think about what you care about and what you want your legacy to be, and to follow through with that.
That's interesting. So part of it is just like when somebody says, when's the best time to plant a tree, 30 years ago and today. And what you're saying is you need to start doing that sooner than later. So how small of an account can somebody get started with Donors Trust?
For a traditional donor advised fund, if you're over 40, you open it with $1,000, and once you have $10,000, you can start directing donations. You do not need to keep that $10,000 in it. You need to keep it one time, and then you can keep $100 in your account if you'd like. If you're under 40, we have our Nova Society to really get people that are younger involved in philanthropy. I opened an account for my son with $300, and then each Christmas and his birthday, I'll put $100 in, and once he reaches $5,000, he can start directing donations towards groups. Legacy, there is no minimum. It is what you would like to do. And people give me a call, we have conversations, and I also help other groups with this, because a lot of organizations may have one development person. They may have two fundraisers, but they're not specializing in legacy. So I work with a lot of groups, and I'm their partner in their legacy plans.
So you've worked with all these clients, you help them plan things out in legacy, and sadly, people go, right? So what's the real, is there a warm heart type of story where somebody did this and we saw the effects but it actually kind of cascaded to earlier generations? Because I think one of the saddest things is I'll meet people who've never donated in their lives, or they've never really thought about formalizing how to donate. And this sounds like this is a mechanism, just like planning so many things in life. So talk about that kind of cascade effect and how it affects other generations.
We recently had somebody open an account for their niece and nephew that are 5 and 6. And they open the account with $1,000, and they're putting in $100 every birthday and Christmas. A lot of people do that with college, right? They open college accounts for their grandchildren, but they are putting money in a donor advised fund for their niece and nephew. And they're also introducing them to the ideas of liberty, like I've done with my son. My oldest, Andrew, goes to Hillsdale College. He could have gone any way he wanted, but I bought him to Freedom Fest, I bought him he went to FEE seminars, he went to IHS seminars, he went to Cato Institute seminars. He's actually a Cato intern this summer. And when it was time to pick a college, he said to me, Mom, I really want to go to Hillsdale. I want to apply early admissions, which means you have to go there if you apply early admission and you get accepted. And I wanted to make sure he wasn't doing it just for me. And I said, well, Andrew, why do you want to go to the school? And he said, Mom, I've spent 4 years with socialists. I'd like to spend 4 years without. So he ended up there, and now he's a Donors Trust client. He's a Novus client, and he gets a great opportunity to socialize with other young philanthropists.
Excellent. So as we wrap this up, what is the big motivation? What would you say to somebody who, and gut-wrenching, you're up against the firing squad, you're faced with the decision that all of us want to avoid even thinking about? So what is the message that you want to give somebody to say that it's time to start planting that tree instead of putting that off? Because it's very easy to do. What's that? What is that, Stephanie? Tell us what that is.
It's to care about your legacy. We only have one life to lead. We take care of our children, we take care of ourselves, but we also take care of the charities that we care deeply about. And those are part of our legacy. It's part of what we leave behind, the legacy of liberty. So thank you very much. And I hope many other people that are watching really care about their legacy of liberty. They can reach out to me. I'm Stephanie Lips. I'm with Donors Trust. You can find us easily online at donorstrust.org, and you're more than welcome to contact me. I'm very happy to work with anybody that's interested in their legacy of liberty.
Well, excellent. So my very special guest has been Stephanie Lips. I don't care what Facebook says about her. She is excellent. I hope that each and every one of you goes forward and contacts her if it's appropriate. I think it's a great idea. I have always said, because I've worked with so many entrepreneurs, so many business owners, so many people who said, when I have money, I'm going to start donating it. And I say donation starts with the kindest thing that you do and stepping forward. And if you can start off and do that every day, what you're going to discover is that you're going to make your world bigger and better and brighter. And my world, our world today, has been made bigger and better and brighter because of Stephanie Lips. Stephanie, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful interview and a great time. I enjoyed myself a lot.